go from there, hopefully. OBS, blah blah blah, that's done. Picture of us is in between us. Discord's on in the background. I hope everyone can hear us. So I've now hit start record, so we're now recording. We're now actually filming this pilot episode. Woohoo! We're now for the first hopefully of many interview with. For those watching this on YouTube, hello and welcome to interview with the one and only Jack Gibbin. Been LARPing since he was a babby, which is quite an interesting feat to say the least. He's been on many social media pages. He's been at my friends with LARPbook and various other social media groups that promote LARP. So he's been around a bit. I'd say quite a fair few years. Those who watch this for YouTube, all the details, if you want to watch us live, are below. Yeah, so Farah, you got the floor.
Yeah, cool. So I am Jack Gibbin. I have been, as I say, been doing LARP since practically 11 months old. And yeah, I've been recognised on LARPbook for doing interviews based on the system I am currently building, with also doing some stuff based on how to take LARP as an approach and through a, as they put it, a veteran's eye of how to get into LARP.
You mentioned veteran, which is quite it's weird to say veteran. And how old are you? 17?
Yeah, 17 years old, and I've been recognised as a veteran.
A veteran at 17. So, when going back, how young were you when your mum took you to your first ever LARP event? I mean, literally exact age.
I was 11 months old and a few days. So it was the first event of Curious Pastimes 2007, like a couple of days before my birthday and stuff, when they reached around a bit kind of earlier, kind of late April. And yeah, it was an interesting time. I was still couldn't talk and was still couldn't walk, so it was kind of that having to be carried around in a swaddle blanket and stuff.
Did your mother then create you as a character then in God? You did say Curious Pastimes.
Yeah, Curious Pastimes.
In Curious Pastimes, so your mother went to God, and does your mum still have your character card, like your first ever character card?
We have them somewhere, but we don't know where they've gone because we've got so many.
Ooh, that's probably something we need to drag out for part 2, I think. Let's see if mum can dig up the old relics.
I've got my current one somewhere, which is obscene at the moment.
Yeah.
Mum went to God, and the God team have known me since my mum had me in her arms whilst I was going in, and the first 2 stats they chose for me were Dagger, Body Dev, and Corporeal 2.
So you can't speak, you can't do any fighting, you can't even pick up a dagger, and yet obviously dagger's a 0-point skill at the moment, depending on what they do, the changing wise. Corporeal 2, you can't even speak, so you can't even cast magic. And Body Dev, okay, I don't think they'll allow 11-month-old to get beaten up, so you had 2 points per location straight out. So straight off the bat you had 2 points per location, and that's before you can even walk.
Yeah.
That is.
And obviously through time that changed hit point wise as we grew older and stuff.
Can you remember your earliest memory of when you realised that you were actually play acting, like you're actually in a LARP system rather than real life? Like, can you remember?
That kind of kicked in from when I turned about 6, 7. It kind of kicked in, but it kicked in more when I was seeing more adult side of the game.
Right.
Because there was less kids at like the first events, but at the final event, the renewal of Magic, there was always lots of kids there. So I'd always see the adult side at E1 and the kids side at renewal.
Is there any kids that you grew up playing or that you recognise today? Is that not the case now?
There's still some of the step that I still recognise and I've seen grow up, and they've seen me grow up, and they still go to this day. Same faction, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Other factions, I do recognise some faces, and sometimes I'll just kind of step back and go, "Hey, I've seen you before." I've seen them before, but they were much tinier. Some of them now are nearly 10, 11. Some of them in their 18s.
like, so you must have seen a large array of people going through that system. Is there anybody out there that you particularly miss from Curious Pastimes that you've got close with, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared?
There's quite a few that I miss, but it was because they saw me grow up, and I got to know them quite well. One person, I never really understood why they left, but I've seen them at Empire quite a few times.
Okay, so
I was going to go.
so they don't necessarily play CP anymore, but you have seen them elsewhere.
Yeah,
So the people
yeah,
you grew up playing with, if now you've seen them in other LARP
yeah.
systems. What's your favourite LARP system and why?
So as I say, since growing up, it's varied over time. Going to more systems has given me a better understanding of different LARPs. For me, combat-wise, I enjoy Curious Pastimes, but that's just a biased thing. I've always enjoyed their combat system.
Yep.
Roleplay-wise, I'm enjoying Empire at the moment, but I am getting more plot into with CP. So plot side of things is my CP kind of area, but more for the roleplay, I enjoy kind of the Empire environment.
So you've mentioned the combat in Curious Pastimes. Why is the combat better at Curious Pastimes than it is at Empire?
So at Empire, you can gain a lot more hits through potions and things, and I've seen players come onto the field, and I've heard numbers of up to about 20 hits per, and that's just
Is this Empire?
around 20. Yeah, about 20 hits
Oh wow.
to take them out.
Alright, so does that include
And there's
armor?
no headshots at Empire, so
Okay, does that include armor?
on top of that's with armor as well.
So it's 20 hits with armor.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's not just like so they got like 10-point body and then like 7 points 10 points armor.
Yeah, it builds up because you can get loads of potions and stuff that just boost your points at rituals you can cast.
So it's a lot of buffs involved in Empire.
Yeah, which kind of makes it harder for combat to feel balanced in some cases.
So are you talking about the monsters having all these hit points or players?
Players.
Just players.
Monsters are perfect, yeah. Players are a bit unbalanced compared to monsters.
So you prefer the combat over Curious Pastimes than you do Empire because Empire have a mismatch of what you can and can't do regards going into battle sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Whilst at CP, it's a lot more fluid, and it's about what you prep as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What you go in with. So body dev, if you've got pre-ones, going with regens. That's the big deal with CP's regens and healing potions, is where you get your more kind of, I'm not going to say buffs, but they're almost like buffs.
Okay. A controversial question now. Your opinion on head hits. Yes or no? As in, do you mind getting hit in the head, or don't you like getting hit in the head? And what do you feel about the rules of no head hits in a combat-based environment?
So, for me, growing up with head hits being a thing, I've always learned to take a head hit and not worry about it because I know it's a safe thing. But I do understand that some systems do go, maybe not. And that's something that they have their right to. And for reasons such as safety, it can really help people with feeling more comfortable on a battlefield. The less risk of concussion or having, if you've had concussions prior, re-injuries again.
So you don't mind it. You don't mind getting hit in the head. That's understandable. We're all like that. But you do understand that some players don't like getting hit in the head. Here's the controversy. Here's where the controversy continues. Should those who don't like being hit in the head take part in combat?
Yes.
Okay. Explain. Elaborate.
So, because head hits aren't always, they're a target for players to hit if it's available. It's a massive target, as John, me and you have both seen at CP.
Mm-hmm.
Head hits are the big deal there. For players that may not like getting hit in the head, there are other locations to be hit in: legs, arms, chest, back.
It's where I'm gonna kind of mess the balance up here. If you're a frontline fighter, you shield in hand, helmet on, ready to fight, but you do not like head hits, and you're going into combat knowing that you don't like taking hits in the head, but you've got a shield there. The only thing you can see is the head. Should they still take part in the battles that intensely, even though they don't like getting hit in the head?
Yes, but I'd recommend, if they're gonna do that, make it quite obvious. So the way I always see it, and I've seen it Empire, is don't wear a helmet. Don't wear something to protect your head, because then it will make it a little bit more clear that maybe they don't like getting hit in the head, and maybe not being on the front line.
So basically, you basically those who love combat but don't like getting hit in the head, use common sense and just take a step back. Your helmet, Peepo, Jack.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Show off. Show and tell.
Helmet is made from a builder's helmet that's been kind of designed. It's got a little top bit, but it's also been. My dad built this when he was going to events when he first started. So it's actually authentically done to look like a generic kind of warrior's helmet for a Mongol.
Is that just purposely for your head, or has that been used before?
It's been, my mum's used it, my dad's used it, I've used it, former command team members have used it.
Because when you so going back to when you said you were a baby, there's a picture that you've sent to us, because that helmet, when you said about that helmet, funny enough, I've popped it on the screen, the old picture of you, and if you look at the back, there's literally, the helmets look exactly the same, almost look exactly the same as your one. So the picture I've got up in a minute is the oldest one you've sent me, with you as
the one with the original kind of Mongol force.
Mm-hmm. To go back to how old you were, so we'll go back to the combat in a minute, guys. But yeah, so this picture I've got up on the screen right now is of the oldest picture that I think back. You said 2011.
Yeah, 2011. It was one of the final years or events where the Mongols were quite huge as a force within the steppe.
Yeah. Would the steppe ever go back to having that many Mongols?
We're getting there.
Ooh, okay. Spoiler alert.
We're getting there. It's slowly increasing. The steppe has definitely had an influx of players wanting to play Mongol characters due to the brief. In the brief, it states it that we're nomadic Mongols.
So I do miss playing Kotik. I've still got the
rest in peace.
Yeah, I do miss it, but I'm just looking at the Mongol picture that everybody else can see on the live stream, and that's a beautiful, like even around the oval, it's more like if you look at it carefully, on the oval as its triangle sticks out, the circle, that perimeter is greener than the grass around it, so it's almost like it's weird how it looks like on screen. So I don't know if that was intentional, or people have circled around it so much it's dampened the ground around it. Because you have to...
It was, from what I remember, it wasn't intentional. It was just because it was the middle of summer and that little piece had been, because it rained a few days beforehand.
Yeah.
So it was starting to dry up before we arrived on site, and that was the only bit that's still damp.
Oh wow! Okay, so I was expecting. Yeah, okay, I could see. Yeah, okay. Now looking close at it, there is it looks fairly muddy, but like I say, it just looks perfect, like the gods were watching, looking upon that oval kind of thing. But just seeing, I haven't seen that many people around the oval since we did like E3 back in 2019, where we had quite a few. When Chris Young was doing the prayers.
Yeah, we had at renewal this past year.
Yeah.
So this renewal has just occurred. We had about 12 to 15 participants in prayers.
Oh wow! Are participants as in kneeling down, or as in just around the oval in general?
That's praying. That's standing to do beast prayers, which is the other form of it.
Yep.
It's about 15. It was about 12 to 15 of us that did it.
Nice. I do like I do miss being part of the steppe. It was a nice little. It's a nice community to be a part of, and as we spoke previously offline, that I will be back eventually once I've played out the other stories I want to play.
Yeah.
And I do want to concentrate on the religious side of the mongrels. Really deep, like dive deep into it, so that Steve and the other command team have to go, oh crap, we need more lore for John because he's going down that rabbit hole so quickly, sort of thing.
It's what I'm dealing with at the moment is the religious side of the step. I don't play a preacher like a priest, but the way the character's going is more if we're going to relate it to like D&D, to Dungeons and Dragons, it's like almost like a cleric or a paladin. That type of feel is where I'm going at the moment.
Before we go back to combat again, this is my ADHD playing it, going back and forth.
Was it the Mongol helmets you were looking at?
Yeah, because when you go back to looking at the picture, you can see the helmets look similar to the one you did. So I don't know if your dad did any. Is that Dad's first and only one, or has he made any more?
No, that was his only one that he made.
Let's talk about your mother's retirement a minute. Your mum is a volunteer. Oh no, sorry, she works at Moorish, doesn't she? Or is she a volunteer?
She works as a volunteer at Moorish. She does get paid for it, but she works as a volunteer.
Okay, so she's mostly volunteers for Moorish. So will she be coming to the event still doing that, or was she completely out of the LARP game, or has she not gone into detail yet?
She's not gone to full detail yet, but from what we gather, she will attempt, potentially, if she can, do some smaller kind of local ones, but like day events and stuff.
Yeah. I've always loved Kath, and Kath and yourself got me into trying to get Vicarious Pastimes for years, and now that she's now retiring because of health issues, it's a kick in the gut for me because, like, I miss, when I was playing Kotick, I miss having her as like a support beam, and I don't know if that would be the same for everybody else at in the step faction, because your Ma was the Ma of the faction, and she was that if you were stuck to what to do, she was there to go, right, do this or do that, because that's what happened with Kotick. When I turned up, your mum was there, and I went, look, what do I need to do? And she went, right, you need to follow so and so and so and so, make sure they stay safe, make sure you keep them healed, and that was it. I was well on my way with all the froth, and I can still remember Catherine Partridge with a box with somebody's heart in it, sort of thing, and she picked up and there's blood pouring down her. I'm just like, that's so flipping cool. But that's because your mum went, off you go, follow them, do your thing, be you, do that. And yeah, it was, and that's what I'm going to miss the most about your mum being around. It's just she was the support beam. She's a lovely woman, and like I said, I can't praise your mother enough for getting me into Curious Pastimes as well as you. Back to the combat side of things. So we've discussed about head hits. Yes, you're fine with it. I'm fine with it. But there's other people out there who don't. LARPcom TV has asked, how do you both feel about grappling in LARP? So Jack, I'm going to leave this to you first. I've got my own opinions, but Jack, grappling. There's a few systems that I've been a part of that have touched on it, and the word consent has been thrown around with regards to this. How do you both feel, which is me and you, so I'll let you go first, Jack, about grappling in LARP. Off you go, Jack, you got the floor on this one for a minute.
Again, there's that crucial thing for a lot of people at the moment with consent. For me, is it more grappling within, I'm going to say, is it specifically grappling in combat, or what kind of area are you kind of wanting to touch more? Because if it's in combat, it's one of those things where you don't want to hurt someone whilst you're doing the grappling. People can get carried away very quickly. As me and John both know, through John being a professional wrestler, the bumps hurt.
LARPcom TV have followed it up. They said, I'm interested in hearing your opinions, but I've generally found that people who are pro grappling are generally larger folk. So basically, if they're up for it, they're more of a bigger people to want to grapple, sort of thing.
For me, I know there's a place for it. I think it's one of those, where's the line of safety? Would something, for example, John, if I did a hip toss to you whilst we're grappling,
yeah,
the risk of injury
that goes beyond grappling. So grappling, I think what they're
Yeah.
discussing is basically physically grabbing over someone and having that kind of push pull kind of, or
That push
having
pull style.
or having the sense of I'll grab you to keep you in place sort of thing, and they physically hook onto you to be able to stay put sort of thing. So I think that's what grappling. I think in some cases in systems where they say grapple, they go, okay, I'm going to grapple you. You have to stay still, and there's still like a social distancing matter because again, Curious Pastimes I've put in a system where the wristbands say I don't want to be touched or ask permission first. Unarmed combat is another topic which I would discuss, and I will go back to that. Unarmed combat. I've got Mini-Me Juniors again backed up with people who have hard skills tend to want to use / benefit from those skills.
To answer the question now you've explained it a bit more,
Yep.
is, again, if, for example, if you're in a high-intensity environment, let's say on a battlefield, and you're grappling with people, you're going to bump into people on the way around in combat, which could be a safety risk. Those things can happen, but what I'm going to say is it has its place, but I don't feel like it has its place. It can be safe no matter who you are, but it can become a hazard very quickly.
What's your opinion about unarmed combat? Have you experienced it? Have you received it? Could it be used in today's games, or which games would you see the benefit from?
With unarmed combat, I'd say that it has its time, it has its place. The way I always see that is if you're going to go unarmed strikes, let's say you're going for an unarmed punch, yeah, just bare knuckle punch. I'd always bring it to just keep it as far away as you can from the face, but enough so you can still make it look like you're punching them.
Okay.
Just to keep that kind of sense of, okay, I know how to act with that in that motion.
LARPcon TV has said another thing. Unarmed combat is a selectable character skill in Germany. I've seen people try to do stage combat without being trained in stage combat. Often it went badly. So to talk about grappling on combat, there is a time and place for it. There is some systems do have it as skills, some systems don't. Some people frown upon it, some people don't. Again, it's all different systems, different people. Again, it all depends on who you are and what you're comfortable doing. Like I said, I'm pretty much up for most things. I have to fully read and understand the rules because I'm more than happy to be thrown around. I've done it before with other systems where they've asked me because of my background, just for the purpose of the stream. This is we're trying to keep it as casual as possible because of timings and stuff. I'm currently, we are about an hour into eating my tea, so yeah, we're trying not to be as too serious.
Making me hungry now.
Eat food. Why is the role playing better at Empire than it is at Curious Pastimes? So you mentioned it earlier. You said how combat was better at CP than it is in Empire. But the role playing's better at Empire than it is at Curious Pastimes. So why is it better role playing at Empire than it is at Curious Pastimes?
Now, obviously, opinions will change over time, but for me, it's the fact that there's a lot more to get in deep with, roleplay wise. At CP, for example, War Leaders meeting can maybe last an hour, maybe two. Whilst Empire, War Leaders meetings, or as they call them, War Council, can last for 3-4 hours. And it's just heavy roleplay talking about military tactics and things, which I've always enjoyed. But there's so many varied kind of things. There's loads of trading routes with it, physical things you can actually hold and trade. But yeah, it's one of those things where, for me, it just feels more immersive because there's lack of cards. So you know how there's like herb cards and stuff like that? So at Empire they use cards for obviously herbs and stuff, but for material things they actually have phys reps for them, which really helps them to add immersion for players. So for me it's more just the amount of things you can do to get involved with role play that isn't limited to time.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is, with regards phys reps and stuff, there's a lot of physical actual reps, instead of cards, as actual representations of the objects that you're actually carrying around, rather than, say, with CP, everything's all on a laminated card. Is that what you're...
Yeah.
Okay. you have you said you had battle meetings that take that vary over a couple of hours. Isn't that too much information, or is there points that you get bored in? Because that's a lot of time to discuss about war cancel stuff, especially when your time is limited over a weekend. Is that too much, or do you feel that is right within the Empire game?
For some people, it's a bit too much, and you can leave whenever through it. There's no once you're there, you're there. You can leave freely. I go more to gather information, just to find out what's going on, just to keep notes really and keep myself up to date.
Okay, so is there any other roleplay aspects apart from the trading and the combat? Is it just purely? Is it just because it's the lack of combat, or is it because just the roleplaying is the interaction between characters is so good?
Roleplay between characters is really good. Plus, as well, at Empire, there's no camp attacks.
So there's no skirmishes, no random bits and pieces that just jump in. So it's just
you can go to skirmishes when they're on the books and stuff. You can check for them and go for those slots, but you go into a separate field for that.
Right.
Almost like our battlefield at CP, just a separate field to do that kind of stuff. Otherwise, there's no camp attacks that happen in the main camp kind of area for players.
Okay, so the only two games you got at the minute is Carrier's Pastimes and Empire, right? That's the only two you've got. Who do you feel is the one best character that you feel you're in touch with the most?
For me, Pipo's my. It's me, but it's me with a bit more of a. I don't know how to put it really, because John, you've met my character before.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a. How would you put him? Because I've got my kind of wording on him, but
People is a passionate family guy, basically. Always he's the defender of the step, basically. He's always looking after the camp in any way, shape, or form he can. Whether it be out going battles, or whether it be in the camp, or doing escorting people around, you're always there defending the step. You are the defender. Almost like a paladin sort of character, like you're religious in the Mongol ways. A mini Junior 92, just literally put, a bit carny. KHAN-IE.
one okay. I definitely know that person's definitely from the step then.
Yeah, a bit carny.
Pipo has going through my list now. He has Corp 1, Corp 2, Shaman 1, and Meditate.
So what's people stacking armor wise? Is it all plate? Because I remember you tried wearing plate before, but you didn't quite get on with it.
The current build, I think there's actually a photo of my kit somewhere. You may have it. Where I am. So currently I'm wearing the main helmet on the top, which is heavy. Wax heavy, it's one of the two at the moment. Still working out because it's made from a certain material. Leather chest. This part of my arm is heavy, so it pretty much counts for half location. So same on this arm. Then I've got my legs, which are heavy now. So, well, X heavy now and there.
To differentiate between Curious Pastimes and Empire, what's your character? Explain to me who your character is and what your character is in Empire, because obviously for those who don't know,
I've got,
and myself, I don't know. So, and for those who take part in Empire as well, who are watching, there's a few of you watching. So again, hello to everyone who's watching. So, to explain to us, like if someone just joined us, that they're in Empire, but they haven't met you. How would you go about introducing yourself and who you are within Empire?
So recently, at E3 Empire, I retired my character. So I was playing a changeling, kind of equivalent of like a elf at a normal fantasy game, but they call it differently because lineage rather than race. But it was originally he was just I originally treated him like almost like a runner, so a messenger. Obviously, my joints went no and stopped me, so I kind of started playing more the surgeon route. So he didn't want to be recognized as a hero. He wanted to be recognized as being just a person of help. That's all he was.
So that's
the new one.
Oh, so that's the first character, wasn't it? You just mentioned about.
Yeah, that was the first one I ever played.
Yeah.
Empire. Then my second character that I'm now building is a very much this priest, like a battle priest, almost like a clerical build with him. But he's very much more. He fights for the virtues more than anything, and kind of tries to be. Because of his background, he was a formerly a slave of one of the kind of evil orc clans within the world. So he's trying to learn how the Empire works by being a priest. The new one's more of to see him at first glance, you wouldn't think he's a geek, but once you get him talking about history and knowledge, he'll put on his fake glasses, and he'll sit with his books and stuff. I'll start going through it. CP is more the realistic risk factor of character death. It's the risk of danger and the most unpredictable, being unpredictable, is what I enjoy most about Curious Pastimes. Is it's very unpredictable. Anything can happen at any moment. Empire, I enjoy most is the role play through politics. Very much a game of your role play, what you say and do affects what you do the most and what you're recognized for.
With Empire, whatever you choose determines what happens next.
Yeah, whatever you choose as your character determines potentially what happens to your character further down the line. But with the campaign, the decisions made by the councils that are in the game affect the main campaign.
Okay, so for Empire, you like how if you do something in the story, it branches into actually you're going to go down this path, or you end up going down this path, sort of thing, depending on. So there's a lot of forks in the road that you can make decisions on. But if you're part that counts at the end, and you decide, okay, this is what's going to happen this way, then you're essentially causing the main plot to drift. So if you're role playing actions in the council, like with, I'll use Curious Pastimes as an example for renewal, how everybody chose the certain shards of glass, whatever we call them. They to pick the new world. Transferring that concept to Empire, whatever you choose to do, depends on how Empire pans out. So it's a lot of player-led stuff then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, lots of player-led there.
And then same with your individual characters. It depends on what you do as a character will depend on what stuff you get. So as you go along the game, you end up hitting a point and go, okay, I need to go left or right, and you go, okay, I'm going to go choose this path. This then comes rubbed out, and then you're starting to go along this path, and you go, oh, I'm in another fork of the road, I need to do something else, I'm going to choose this path, and you end up going back doing.
Yeah.
So your actions determine what you'll do as a character. The only thing I have weird about that, because Empire is such a big place, we're talking about thousands of players there, right?
Yeah. Literal
thousands. Whereas Curious Pastimes, it doesn't feel like there's thousands of people there. There's hundreds, but I don't feel there's thousands. How can, in your opinion, Empire deal with that many people choosing all these different things to be able to manage every single player that does what certain things? Or is it purely player-led, and the player decides if they're going to do that route, and their role play kind of worms out?
So it's very much what will potentially happen is if the actions of that player as an individual affects let's say they find a missing relic in the middle of nowhere, and they've just found it. That can affect the rest of the game for a sense of what they may be able to discover down the line. So people will recognize them and mention them so much that the game team and the ref team will actually go, okay, let's watch this person a second. Let's see what he's doing, or he or she is doing, or they. See what they're doing, and if we need to speak to them to tell them something or to give them a brief something, we will.
So I can see, so Empire's basically, the more you put into it as a character and go out and do stuff, the more plot and the more development you'll get. If you're just sat in a camp doing bugger all for a weekend, you're not going to get anything out of it. Is that what you're saying with regard to Empire?
Yeah, if you just sat in the camp, you'll gain roleplay from like other players, but it will be very much, you won't get much out of the main game.
I'm looking at trying to make an Empire event, whether it be playing as a variation of Kotick or a variation of my orc. I don't know yet. I've got tons of kit. Like I said, I'm still going through it all. So it's nice to get an in-depth feel of what Empire is. They have a wiki page, and You can scroll through it and look for everything and whatnot, but a sense of actually hearing it from somebody and actually getting their opinion of it is actually a different perspective, and it's really a really good perspective on what we can do in that system. Have you got plans to do a new system in the new year? If so, what are you looking forward to most about that system if you are going?
I will be on in March. I'll be attending a game, actually local to us in the southwest, called Chaos Gate. I'll be going as a crew member to just kind of learn what that game is, because I've seen talk of it. I know, John, you've done a post on your YouTube about it.
Yep.
Which is a very good watch. I recommend. Yeah, just seeing as a crew member, how that game works is kind of what I'm mainly looking for. Is what that game is about, and how to get into the game through crew.
I went there as crew and I learned a lot about the game, but unfortunately, the game has changed dramatically since that video. So technically, that video is out of date by considerable amount with the amount of information. It's a whole new system. It's still the same storyline, but the system within it's changed. So instead of calling 32, 84, 162, 1, yeah, one strike, one hit point sort of thing, unless you get some skills to say otherwise, I think. But yeah, the Chaos Gate, and again, great bunch of guys. That's another system I want to get back into in the new year. Fingers crossed. So you're going to go down there as crew for the March event. Is that for the weekend or is that a day event?
Small day one. They've not worked out the site yet for it. They're still working that bit out, but they've got the main kind of date.
Okay, so they've got a date, but they haven't got a place to do it.
Yeah.
So those watching in the southwest, I don't know if their website's up and running, but yeah, they've got a lot. Like there's a lot of stuff coming up for next year, regarding those in the southwest as well. If you're in Devon and Cornwall, are you looking to create a character at Chaos Gate, or are you just looking to specifically just see what it's like monstering, get the feel for the system, and then go from there?
Yeah, that's the main thing.
We're going to talk about very quickly. Well, not very quickly, actually. I want to talk to some detail about this because even I'm intrigued about this because you have touched. We spoke about this quite a bit. I want to talk about your LARP system, that one that you've been working on for many years with the help of family and close LARPing friends. Let's talk about Clash of the Cosmos. Give us I want you to give us a general rundown and general concept of what the game is, and if people are interested, where could they find out more?
So, Clash of the Cosmos LRP is a high fantasy system. It takes inspiration. It's not directly copied. It takes slight inspiration from games such as Empire, CP, and games I've kind of seen around and been a part of. Clash of Cosmos LP was an online system, and we are tempted to go back to online for a little while until we can get money for the site that we want to use. But it is high fantasy. There is combat involved. There will be camp attacks and things like that because we all enjoy that for the people that do. A system where you can, as our kind of tagline is for it, I'm going to put it up soon, to write your own narrative legacy. You're telling your own story and telling your own legacy at the same time.
So if I were to create a character during Clash of Cosmos, what would be the story? What would be the starting story of this? I know you've done bits already, got being online and stuff like that. If I wanted to join the game, what's the prologue? What am I expected to see in character?
So you're expected to see in character 4 armies that have been created in this one city: Honor, Balance, Kingsman, and the Royals. They all represent different parts of the world. So, for example, Honor is a mix of samurai and Vikings, both mythologies coming together. The names we've got for those are, so for the kind of samurai, the nation for them is Nagawa, and for the Viking nation, we've got Norden. But they are put together in this one army to be representatives for it. We've got Balance, which is a very much mix. So we've got pirates in that one. If anyone recognises Game of Thrones, we've got a version of House Lannister, Anglo-Saxon Celts, and we've also got kind of Middle Eastern Arabs in there as well.
What's the main story so far?
So the current story is that the world has, for about 30 years, has been rebuilding itself from being in an empire to now being in a Kingdom Republic, and the city that the main players will be starting in has had pretty much been invaded a lot and has kind of been shut down on itself. So the main kind of bad guy, as I say, the main antagonist that the players will be encountering is a person called Aegin the Unmoral. He's a fae that's kind of seen the war and kind of wants to build the world in his own mind, his own way, because he didn't like how the Fae Wars went beforehand. The main objective when you write it will be, the first thing is planning for the siege that he's going to be sending across to the city that the players will be a part of. So the first event is more of a prelude to main kind of plot. So it'd be going more into how they're going to prep the defense, what they're going to put in place, what things can they stop before they arrive, etc.
Are we doing this online, or are you actually preparing to do this as a live action game?
The event where doing the pre kind of siege stuff will be an in-person one. It'll be our first event.
So that's the live action, so in person, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you got a site lined up yet?
We've got a potential site. We're going to talk more about it with them at some point, just to kind of see how much it's going to cost again, because obviously numbers have gone up. But we're looking at Root and Branch Acres in Coventry.
So what numbers are you wanting to look at for how many players are you trying to conjure up for this first game?
For the 4 armies that we have, as I say, Kingsman, Royals, Honor, and Balance, we're looking at 20 players per army.
So there's four armies, or 4 nations, I should say. So you're trying to hopefully, fingers crossed, you want to get about 80 people through the door. Basically 80 people in, aren't you?
Yeah, 80 people. We're looking between £60 to £65 per ticket at the moment.
Again, that's business stuff. I'm guessing you want to obviously go for the weekend, I'm guessing.
Yeah, a bit of a weekend's kind of time.
When are you looking to get your first game in?
We're looking at, the hope was 2024. That was the hope.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to reach that point, from what we gather.
Yeah, it happens.
Just out of finance.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, we will be in the next coming weeks. So next month or so, we'll be putting videos out on our new YouTube channel that has been created to gain just a bit more insight into what the game is. I'm also using it for a project for college to just kind of see what I can do learning the skills of the game.
Well, with Clash of Cosmos, I wish you the very best. I would try and get involved as well and try and help promote you.
I know I only mentioned 2 of the armies when I was speaking about the lists of the armies.
What's the other 2?
Kingsman, which is, think, Arthurian folklore meets historical Knights Templar. Very much your kind of generic kind of knightly orders. Very mercenary based there as well. So mercenaries, Arthurian with Knights Templars. And then the Royals, which is a bit of a mix. We've had people say it's very unorthodox, being so your kind of Romans, so that would be under like Julius Caesar, Scipio, etc. That type of Roman, and also Masquerade, French Italian Masquerade.
So you've got a wide range of, regimes that people can play to suit those individuals, like kind of concepts and characters. So you got a lot to think about when creating a character.
We do, for information about our stats and how we work our rules, etc. You can find them on our Facebook. Clash of the Cosmos LRP is a private group, but if you just click on the request, one of our kind of guys, either me or one of our others, will just one of our admins will just press the button and you'll be allowed in.
Okay, I will add that for those who are watching on YouTube. I will add that in the description below for those who are watching on YouTube.
We've recently put up our proper world brief now, which covers the more up-to-date side of things of what's going on in the world, to give players a bit more understanding and some insight into the politics that's going on. Clash of Cosmos LP is more a game for players to take part in all aspects that's being politics, combat, crafting. We've got a whole avenue for that. So throughout the game, you can actually evolve those skills. You can learn skills through the game.
Yeah.
You have to do tests for each one. So for kind of all of our ones, so smithing wise, you have to be an armor smith first. And for that, at the end of your test, you've got to pretty much show, you've got to tell the person who's examining it how a set of armor goes together. So the different components, aka if they speak about chainmail, what links should they use, etc. And roleplay building a set of armor. So that's with a fake kind of hammer or whatever, and hitting a pretend anvil. We've already mapped out how refs are going to be recognised a little bit as well. So similar to most systems, it'll be like a tabard with a R on it, but it will be what we're going to try and do, hopefully, fingers crossed, to get them high-vised. So at night, it can make easier for people to find referees. It just makes it easier for players, for example, if a man down call gets called, for the refs just to be easily found to get out of the way and stuff. We've already mapped out a little bit of the site. So if we use root and branch, we've mapped out where the armies would go.
So essentially, you've got, depending on what faction or what army you're with, depends on where you are in the camp, like you would with your Curious Pastimes with factions.
Yeah.
I think that's the most we've talked about, like Clash of Cosmos. I think that's the most we've actually talked about it ourselves, which is really good.
I think you're already on the Facebook, so you can always look through there and stuff and find out what's going on.
I need to, once you start getting more on your feet with it, I'll start trying to dip in to try and help out more. The more you're keen about it, the more I'll try and help out, sort of thing. Echo 45, thank you for the follow. They just followed me. Thank you very much for the follow. That's 103 followers now, so again, appreciate it. And they've just tagged us. Jack, they've just, Echo's followed us and then hit the hydrate button, so make sure that's on screen, do it, thank you. That was for you, Echo 45. Second one, twice. I don't know, that's what, 4 gulps? 4 gulps. Miss Colonel Geek did it twice. And so I clicked take a break so I can go pee. There we go, 10-minute break. Yay! Thank you, Miss Colonel Geek. I can go for a pee. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go take a 10-minute break. 10 minutes later. Welcome back to the interview with Jack Gibbin. What was your favourite memory as a kid? Role-playing wise and gaming or combat. What would be the point that stood out the most for you as you were growing up? Is there any role-playing or any game that really still burns into your skull now, even after all these years, from baby down up to your 17-year-old self? What point in that still sticks in your head to this day?
So one memory, I'll go a bit backwards. So one memory comes into my mind that's actually now been put in the Norscan library at Curious Pastimes, is there was an encounter where the children of the war host went on a kids linear to go and take on the Rat King of this kind of rat kind of swarm, and in the end we all won. But that memory always burns in my mind because it's one of the first kids linears that was properly ran in really good detail. Going a bit further, I'd say my first time monstering.
How old were you then?
So my first time I went properly monstering, I was about 12, but it was non-con roles obviously, where I went into the wolves camp. We were playing these kind of slave kind of people. Our slave owner was quite kind of tyrannical slave owner, and pretty much all the slaves or thralls were taken from the kind of the evil slave owner to one of the players who also was a slave trader within the thralls, within the wolves. So it was just a switch of who was in charge. But it was really fun because the way I played it so my character had been overworked and his back had gone on him and stuff. From there, I'd say, I don't know if you were there, John, you may have already moved by this point. I had been in an encounter where, just after my first battle, where I fought Blink's champion. So, for reference, Blink was a orc war boss within the steppe. Not war host, but just nation. And we'd killed him off after 2 years of dealing with him. And his champion appeared. and challenge the person who had orchestrated the death of his boss,
Yeah.
aka me,
Yeah.
causing quite a hefty duel. And once that happened at Renewal Just Gone, we were sent out as these monsters. I think I've told you this story, John.
Well, for
Went into
the benefit of
Yeah.
the stream and of good old YouTube, by all means, far away. Tell your story.
We'd been the whole step or kind of faction for monsters had been sent out to do two different things. One was to go and pretty much just go as zombies, which was a fun encounter. But the group I was a part of, we were sent out to be death jesters for the mercenary camp. Now these death jesters had you could cast Chameleon 4 times, and you could do Bitter Kiss 4 times. So I'd gone in, and I may be wrong on those numbers, but approximately out of 4. So we were sent in. We had a lot of people kind of dropping like flies in the mercs because we were just nuking them with as much magic as we could. I ended up the last part of that encounter before one of my command team came up to me as I was hiding in a bush. I went up to these 2 people that had just come off the path, and they just tried to enter the camp. I snuck up behind them with 2 swords, hit one of them with Bitter Kiss and the other one with a final Bitter Kiss, and then scurried off into the darkness, leaving those 2 characters. Unfortunately, from what I gather, potentially may have died. It was just timing more than anything. It was just perfect timing.
Oh, you said about how like early in the show that the real element of death can happen at any point, sort of thing. Like having a 2-minute death count with Curious Pastimes is absolutely lethal. So if you to go bitter kiss, and no one's around, and you definitely know that no one's gonna be around for 2 minutes, you definitely. It's not your fault. At the end of the day, you're given a brief. You've played by the brief, run by the game team, and you played it to the letter. Unfortunately, if those players had their characters died, it sucks, but that's the nature of the game. You were wrong place at the wrong time. It's not your fault, mate. At the end of the day, you just did what you were told to do. So it's a shame for the players.
That's mostly caught up point for me on moments that are kind of burned into brain that I can give.
What's the the worst memory you've had? The one that upset you the most? What's that that wish you can forget, but people like me keep bringing this up. So what would you be the worst memory, like the worst or the bad experience you've had? You don't have to name and shame. That's not what I'm here to do. But I want to know, like yes, LARP can be this bloody great, awesome event, but there are the undertales of what can happen in LARP. So what's the worst memory that's happened for you?
One of the worst moments for me was, I'll go with the recent one first, and then I'll go into the other one.
Yep.
My worst one was Kolkathrak, when I'd lost your character, and the Mongols lost 4 that day, and it was the first time the Luns and connected to the Luns had lost so many in quite a long time. So that one kind of hit hard. I know I did your ceremony, your funeral. I nearly went to tears that day encounter.
I'm not gonna lie, Cold Cathrack, Curious Pastimes last year did absolutely suck, but it is what it is. Such is life. You live, you learn from all that, and you carry on with the next story.
My other worst moment was more of a child thing.
Right.
When I was a kid, it was when my mum lost her first character.
Oh. So you as a kid have just basically lost your paternal figure. Ouch.
It didn't help. It was the weekend of my birthday.
Oh. Do you remember how old you were?
I was either 8 or 9 when that happened.
Ouch. And your mother lost your character. So were you was that a paternal? So did you know, obviously, you were playing a game, you were pretending, and that connection you had with that character being your mum, I can't describe into words how that must have felt.
In my brain at that time, I remember how I felt. I definitely felt the death felt real in my brain.
Wow. Okay.
But I knew she hadn't died. It was one of those, I can see her physically, but I know her character, how mum used to be, is not going to be how mum is.
Ouch. That's like, I lost my dad like 14 years ago, and I can only imagine that connection you have with your mum and having that connection severed and how heartbreaking that is. I can only compare it to me losing my dad. That's the only way I can describe it, and that really, really hurt. Like, that affected me so much mentally. So I can't imagine if you. I wouldn't say it's not really dumbing it down because you're still losing that connection between yourself and your mother, sort of thing, through acting, through method acting, as it were, and to experience that. I can't imagine I just can't imagine that emotion that you would have for that. So yeah, that's so. From that, how did you cope with that? Do you remember how you coped, or is it did you, or have you forgotten that part?
It affected me for a couple of years. I think it was like I reached 11, so from 9 to 11, I was really kind of struggling with it. Being autistic and that reality, reality with that notion was kind of like, so I can't call my mum now. And then what the game team, the command team did, and they spoke to the game team about it, was fine, was they did a ritual in camp, which was my dad and my mum in character getting married, but on an OC, it was kind of like renew of vows,
Right.
allowing my mum's former character's spirit to re-enter the body. But that pretty much meant I could call her mum again properly.
But that was after 2 years, or was this kind of leading up to it?
It was leading up to it.
Okay.
And then once by the point I reached like 11, I became kind of a teenager by that point.
Yeah.
Things became a lot more kind of like, okay, this is a game.
Yeah. You start to see which is black and which is white, and what isn't real, what is real. You start to so you start to get the concept of what's what now. But it's around age 11, 12, you said.
From there, it was it kind of began a cycle of kind of remapping how that was going to work.
It took
which
a while.
Worked quite well.
Yeah, especially I guess it took a while for your brain to put two and two together and get the right neurons fired in the right way, so that you can go, all right, this is this is that. Mum's fine. She's playing a character. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm old enough to know now. So we can carry on.
But it did lead to, for example, you've seen me switch spirit before as well. There was a ritual about a couple of months after that, which was me getting the white tiger spirit.
You've mentioned it, but I don't think I witnessed you changing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was very much more. He was a lot more aggressive compared to me. I used him as more of a what would happen if I started acting a certain way, and used him as the focus point.
Okay. So you had a spirit that can regulate that strong emotion, basically.
And then obviously at renewal this year, it's just gone. That spirit was taken away, and it went away.
Oh, okay. So
back to cycle.
You've had that ability, and now you're a bit older. And the spirit's gone. You can now regulate yourself, sort of thing. So that's pretty good going, to be honest. So what's your plan now for Peepo as a character? Where are you moving forward with this character? Because you've had years of playing this character. You've done so much already. So what's the plans for Peepo going forward?
He's got a thing now with Timogen Khan, aka the Shadow Dragon, where he's going through the trials and challenges to become his champion. So very much the paladin route in that regard. And kind of going through that, knowing there's a lot of things that can change. But it would be pretty much getting ready for the Twilight, if that makes sense. The Twilight, the character's starting to go away, and getting the next one sort of prepped, ready to go.
You're almost finished. You're almost at the final chapter. Almost at the final chapter, or at the end of the final chapter. You're getting ready to put the end, or to be continued at the end of your story.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing once you finish playing Peepo, I don't think Curious Pastimes will let you go back to that character, will they?
No, they may ask for him to be an NPC.
Yeah, but I guess
depending on how they do it.
I guess that's what you need to discuss with Steve and the command team.
It's just to see what they want to do with it. The phrase that was used was, "There's a lot of sacrifice involved," and what I'm about to do. That could be sacrificed through me losing things,
Losing yourself,
or that could be the end.
or losing, or you have to decide whether to choose one over the other.
Mm.
You're preparing for the worst. You're ready, or you're preparing to write the end of people's book to be able to go and then prep for a new character. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it's I know it's coming, but here's what I want to finish on. It's also the way I'm doing their plot currently for that is for me to give a thank you back.
That's cool.
It's me giving thank you by getting that story finished. How I feel it should be done.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I hope that works out well. I know you've got one planned anyway, unless you're going for something else I don't know about.
There's another plan, something else I'm working on,
Okay.
but that will be more. I'm thinking on it to get it ready in my head in case Peepo doesn't die or retire. It's
Yeah.
more or less if things go too good.
Well, I say you might do whatever you're doing, and everybody comes out of roses, and it's just like, well, I was planning on retiring or dying at this point, but no, we did too well. Where do I shut the book now, sort of thing?
Because it's very much. I'm going to use a wrestling reference. When Mark Calloway, aka The Undertaker, he said in his kind of final moment, it has to be the right moment to say goodbye. That's what I'm waiting on. Is that right moment to say goodbye?
That's the most difficult part about playing a character. If you want to end it at a certain point, sometimes some people leave it until the end of a year, or until a certain plot's done, or until they finish tying off the loose ends to say goodbye, sort of thing. But again, it's very difficult because those moments are few and far between. Some people like to leave of their own accord. Some people get cut off before the time's done. But if you have the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to be done after once this is done, I can say my goodbyes and then I can go on to do something else. That's the difficult part, because you don't know if once you've done all those bits and pieces, something else is going to come along and go, actually, we want you continued, but you'll end up doing this. For example, my orc wanted to retire him. All of a sudden, I got hit with stuff that rarely is used in the system. So what was supposed to be I'm done playing this character has now led to me making sure my orc mask is scrubbed clean of any shed mold, ready to play for next year, because I've been given something that's rarely played within the system, and I need to continue that story. I've already got encounters planned with some people that might speed up the process of his death, but then again it might help him. It all depends on how they react to what I want to do. So I could see where you want to write the end. Just be prepared that yes, you may have tied off the loose ends, said your goodbyes. Next minute the plot hammer goes, and then you're back doing something else as people, because you've just been hit with a very hard plot stick. So just as much as I really hope you do get the end and it's the right moment for you, just be prepared for another slap in the face with the plot stick. So unless you have everything down to a T, you cross the I's, dot the T's with the command team. You never know what the game team's going to turn around and go, actually, just one more thing. And you'd be like, come on, I just want to retire already. You got to be... Yeah, you just be prepared. I know you want to end your character on your own terms, but just be prepared for the plot stick or whatever the command said. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just be prepared.
The past couple of years, there's been moments where, for example, the Blink plot, I jumped on that one.
Oh.
The one I've just been doing, so the current one I'm doing, I kind of walked on it, picked it up, and forgot I was still holding it. So it just kept coming. I was like, oh, right, okay, now I've got to drill this out.
You never know what's around the next corner.
Since I was a kid, I've had concepts in different factions. Characters for the Jereg, characters for Algaia, one for the Mercs, one for the Wolves, but I know that one could die very quickly.
So we talked about future plans. So you want to change your character. How are you doing with your priest character in Empires? Have you got any plans for what he's going to do, or you're just going to see how that goes?
With him, he's going to be a very much scholar, but more in the military area. So very much a military priest kind of idea, that he'll be at military councils just taking notes and going back to National Assembly for kind of priests and going, look, here's what I found out. Great, I'll send that back to them. And just dipping in and out of each one.
So basically, you're still playing that runner, but with more knowledge and different concept of knowledge, sort of thing.
Yeah, more knowledge based and more. He'll be able to do more within the military game. But the last character, I was more just looking at each game, going, "What do I want to cover?"
Okay, going back to combat a little bit. What's your favourite fighting style?
For me, it's sword and board,
You like your sword and shield.
sword and shield, or something with a shield.
Something with. Okay, so do you like your bucklers or do you like your towers? So what type of shields preferably? I know you've got your specific shield.
I prefer ones that are. You see my. I think there's a photo you may have of my big dwarven shield. That one is my favourite one I've ever used. I like the kind of big but not huge. They're just enough to give me a decent defense whilst I'm fighting with my hand.
Is there a weapon or stuff you don't like using? Like you pick it up and you think, crap, I'm gonna have to use this. Like it's what weapon do you despise the most? Or what's the worst weapon?
Oh, despise is a strong word.
Despise, or basically when you go up against somebody, they have a weapon on them, and you're thinking, crap, I'm gonna have to fight this person with because of that weapon. What is that weapon?
For me, it's polearm.
Yeah.
I don't mind stab-safe spears,
Mm.
but it's polearms. And weapons that are two-handed with a hammer at the top of them.
Oh. Yeah, alright, so going off LARPcon TV's response there, have you considered doing dirty tricks like accidentally standing on someone's foot to get the combat advantage? Have you?
Oh, I've done some sneaky stuff before.
Oh, go on, you have to elaborate now. Elaborate for the stream. Elaborate.
So one time I had my shield up and I literally had it so I used, because I do martial arts, so I did technique like in martial arts. So I brought my shield up, so their polearm was about here on me in the end.
Yeah.
So they couldn't actually get any hits in. I just kept them there for a good minute whilst I'm cleaving out their legs.
So were you a monster or were you a player?
For that, I was a player.
Oh, Peepo, you cheating bugger.
Another time, I'd taken a stance where I was very much like one leg back, kind of low, kind of ground stance, shield up. And as I brought the shield up, I had their sword and their mace, both their mace and their shield both combined, took them both and went for their ribs.
So we've all done dirty stuff, dirty, cheeky stuff in the past. Naughty. Would you ever, as Peepo or as anybody else, consider, as a hard skill, do more sneaky attacks?
It's similar to what I did with the Night Encounter when I was doing the Death Jester. Very much sneaky, kind of behind their backs, getting them. I wouldn't do it with Peepo, because he's too on the ball for that.
Good man.
He can be a sneaky little bit bugger, but he's not dishonourable with it.
Yeah.
The new character, Empire, he would use some of those tricks.
What would you say is a hard skill you got out of character that you use often in character?
It's actually using a sword. I've learned how to use a sword. Using that hard skill, learning that, applying it to using it in real life became so much more easier. Otherwise, hard skill wise, my way of networking through, because I built great relations now with the Jereg and with the Mercs. Now the Stepney don't really have that great relations with the Mercs. Some of the Merc factions within the Mercs are amazing with the Step. Some of them aren't. Being able to talk to people and persuade and being able to be friendly has kind of helped.
2 seconds. Echo 45. Redeemed hydrate. Oh. Echo 45. Coffee or water? Definitely coffee. Good. I like you. Echo 45. Thank you for that. Jack, anything else you want to add or anything you want to plug?
I would just like to shout out Aldentux, his page, the kit library. I'd also shout out to Agent B Smith, but that one's more for doing the photos and getting some more really iconic shots. And that's all for my shout out side of things for people that do content on here. Obviously, check out LARPbook. Their work is amazing. Also, if you want to check out Clash of Cosmos LRP, all the details are on there. And I'd just like to say thank you, John, for letting me be a part of this. And hopefully this will become a series and a really successful one.
Everybody we shout out, everybody we mention, will be down in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube later. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow. If you want to watch me live, by all means, twitch.tv/TheRockerJH. Everything is in what you need to know is in the description below, including Clash of Cosmos, LARP book, and all my other friends within the social media industry trying to promote this awesome hobby. Hopefully this is one of many interviews. Jack, again, a pleasure to have you chatting for the last
As always,
3.5 hours, even though we've been recording a little bit less than that. So thank you for the last 3.5 hours and the continued chats we're going to have in the future. If any of you LARPers out there want to be part of the show, part of this interview process, hopefully it has been laid back and relaxed like it has been with Jack. I thank you to all those who watched live who are messing around with the channel points. We hope to continue having you guys interact with us. Thank you all for watching. We're going to end this now. Again, Jack, pleasure as always. Thank you all for watching.
Always pleasure.
Thank you all for watching. And as ever, hopefully see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Hopefully see you on the next